anytime we get a page for a newborn transport, we know that anything can happen. Once they get sick very, very fast, and we know that we need to get there quickly to try to support them.
You know, he's not breathing, he won't breathe, and there's a problem with the lungs, and they need to get him to Great Falls. Everything happened so fast. You went from having, you know, this huge, healthy baby to all of a sudden, you know, you don't know if you're going to have a baby. I'm definitely a Mercy Flight fan. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have a son right now, I don't think.
Brody had been born that day in Havre just a few hours before. He was in respiratory distress, labored breathing, grunting. They had him in an oxy hood. And based on that, we gathered our isolate and our meds and our equipment and headed out to Havre. En route, we received more information that Brody's condition had worsened and that they were going to try to put a breathing tube in and start breathing for him. So when we arrived there, we got to the bedside as quickly as possible with our equipment.
When we arrived at baby Brody's bedside, he was blue and lifeless. His oxygen saturation was only in the 30% range. Normal number is 90%. We knew at that time that he was in significant distress and we needed to help him out. We placed a bigger tube down into his airway so we could provide a medication or give him a medication that we needed to give called Curalsurf that would help him ventilate his body better.
So we set up the gas there. We started putting nitric gas into the ventilator circuit, and Brody's sats went from about 40 range up to about 60 and stabilized there. And that's still well below 90, but it was an improvement.
Before we left Havre, Brody's dad, Jeremy, came to the bedside multiple times, and I explained to him how sick his baby was. He held his hand. Grandpa came to the bedside, and an uncle came to the bedside also. And we tried to explain to him that we didn't even know if Brody would make it back to Great Falls or even to Salt Lake if that's what he needed. We then loaded Brody into our flight isolate and took him into the mom. And the mom's words were, "Please take care of Brody for me and keep him safe." And at that time we had left for Great Falls.
It's hard to describe. A lot of prayers. It's a mixture of feelings, you know. I mean, I'm a father, but for how long?
As soon as he walked in the door and he was crying, that I knew that there was something wrong. He was kind of teared up. And my heart just kind of sank because I just hoped that this would have went smoothly, no problems, get to take the baby home. And it wasn't what I expected.
Once we landed in Great Falls, we immediately went up to the unit. They did an echo, and it was diagnosed that he did have some kind of congenital heart disease and needed to be flown to Salt Lake right away. At that point, it was actually very scary because he had gotten worse, and we knew that he needed to have surgery right away to correct his deficit that he had.
So this one wasn't quite as painless as the first flight, because this one we're looking, I think it was 2 hours and 25 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly. There was never a moment where they sat back. You know, there was no rest, no breaks, no nothing. You know, I mean, it was, they were working on him the whole time.
When we got to Salt Lake, everyone was busy preparing Brody to go to the OR immediately. So we actually sat down with Jeremy to give him a little support, explain what they were doing, just to kind of let him know that we were there for him, and if he needed anything, a shoulder to cry on, that he could do it with us. I actually called a couple of days later and knew that Brody was going to be okay once we were told that he was eating and doing well.
The Mercy Flight crew, they were great. You know, they were more than helpful. I mean, they're the reason that he's here, you know. I mean, that's no doubt in my mind.
In situations like Brody Morris's, time is always of the essence. Mercy Flight is the fastest way to get life-saving technology to north central Montana patients in need. Brody returned to Havre from Salt Lake City on Christmas Eve 2005 and is doing very well. Mercy Flight is a costly service that Benefice operates for the well-being of our community and region. With your support of Mayfair, this vital program continues to save lives.